QB quick read. So the Bucs are in first place in the NFC South. Does Tom Brady have one more deep playoff run left in him?
I think he does, Greeny. I mean, look, here we are right at Thanksgiving, and the Bucs are the first place team. And I think, some of the questions that we have, I think are being answered. Reminds me a little bit of, Tom's first year in Tampa, where they didn't get off to a great start, but then they started to play better down the stretch. Think about some of the receiver issues they had earlier in the year. Seems like they're coming out of those. And you get to the postseason, I think teams would rather face quarterbacks like Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, guys like that, rather than seeing Tom Brady come to town.
That could be a very interesting finish here. The next one, I want to ask you about Justin Fields. He's been so spectacular the last month or so. Can he keep playing the style that he is playing right now?
I think he can, because it's something that I think translates over time, and we've seen it before. And the guy we've seen it from is Cam Newton. I think that there are certain traits you see Justin Fields just as a football player, if you will, like as a guy that, look, it's backyard football, breaks down, and I'm just a better runner than you are a tackler. I think that we've seen that. I think we're going to continue to see it, and I think we'll see more design runs out of Chicago to help make that happen.
All right, we'll talk more about that. Meanwhile, what happened to Aaron Rodgers this season?
Yeah, I don't know how you could have seen this coming. I've talked a lot about Aaron's dominance in the NFL over the last 4 years. I would have never have thought losing Devontae Adams would cause this much trouble in Green Bay. I thought Aaron would kind of elevate the play of everybody around him. They haven't found consistent receiver play to help him. It still is a dependent position. Yes, Christian Watson is coming on right now, but it's been a struggle. Maybe Aaron's thumb is a bigger issue than we really realize.
Now, he hurt it back in that London game against the Giants at the very end and frankly has not looked like himself since. Rodgers was on his regular appearance with Pat McAfee yesterday talking about his future. Listen to this.
To sit here and say, oh, no, it's all ball all the time and blah, 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 blah. I don't know. That's not the way I am. Like there's life after football. It's been an awesome run. I mean, I'm really proud of what I've accomplished. I'm not looking forward to the end, and I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be after the season or after 3 more seasons or whatnot.
Okay, so Neek, he's not going to make this easy for them, right? I mean, what if the Packers season is over, and let's say realistically with one more loss it will be, then what they need is to know whether their future does or does not include Aaron Rodgers. And from that soundbite, it seems clear to me they are not going to know anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Aaron's going to be back. I think that he's being honest, as he's been all season with Pat McAfee. I think we're not accustomed to hearing it, but no quarterback is football all their life, all the time. Aaron Rodgers may be on the kind of far end of that distribution where he wants to get away a little more than most quarterbacks, but he's been the same his whole career, and he's coming off of back-to-back MVP seasons. I think we're reaching if we're trying to make this feel like the end of anything for Aaron or the end of anything for the Packers. They still have a pretty strong roster, and this season for sure is over, but I think that they have a chance next year bringing back a bunch of these players if they can address their issues on defense, and if Aaron Rodgers can play at a high level and is fully healthy, they have another chance next year to make a deep run.
Well, but in the absence, Chris Canty, of any certainty regarding Aaron's future, you just heard him say, I don't know when it's going to be. Maybe it'll be after this season. Do they need at some point this year to put the first-round pick Jordan Love on the field and see what he can do? In the absence of certainty with Rodgers, do they have to find a way to do that?
Yeah, they should absolutely put Jordan Love on the field after the bye week to give him 4 games to see what he can do. But, independent of what we've learned from Jordan Love, I think this should be Aaron Rodgers' last season in Green Bay, because it's clear that this team is much closer to a rebuild than they are an actual title. And I'm not paying a 39-year-old quarterback $50 million a year to miss the playoffs. The reality is that this team is grossly underachieving, and it's not because of the young wide receivers and the lack of development. This is a team that lacks leadership, and now it's fair to question if there is a relationship issue between Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, and can the organization work past that friction? So when I look at this situation, I understand the salary cap constraints, but here's the deal. The Philadelphia Eagles moved on from Carson Wentz, $834 million, and made the playoffs in the same season. The Los Angeles Rams moved on from Jared Goff, $825 million, and won the Super Bowl. I understand it's an ugly cap hit. It's a $40 million cap hit if you trade Aaron Rodgers before June 1. But I think that's the only path for the organization to move forward. It's time to reset. They started down that road of replacing Aaron Rodgers. They need to rip the Band-Aid off this offseason.
Ooh, what do you think of that? And, Tim, I'll get to you in a second, but Neek, I know. Go ahead.
I mean, they're close to a rebuild. The roster is pretty good. I think that the way that they've executed this year has been embarrassing, but I do think that when Bakhtiari's there, their offensive line is strong. Alexander's one of the best corners in the league. They have two of the best running backs in the league. They have Aaron Rodgers, when healthy, is amongst the best quarterbacks of all time. Rashard Gary is coming on. He's better than I think anybody expected, considering what he produced in college. This team is good, and with Christian Watson showing up and figuring out how to play. Lazard is still an active threat. Like, this is not a team without talent. Addressing the motivation or the game plan or all that stuff or leadership or whatever, you can use the whole offseason or rest of this season to do that. But to suggest that they're closer to a rebuild than anything else seems wild to me. And those teams that you mentioned moved on from quarterbacks that, like, had question marks, I guess. They didn't move on from future Hall of Famers. They moved on from Carson Wentz and Jared Goff.
All right, I need to come back to this for sure. Timmy, let me get you in here on this little dispute that we have, and then we will set aside some more time to get back to this. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, listen, my first thing is someone needs to check on Rob Domofsky because, honestly, his offseason just got ruined as soon as Aaron Rodgers said that. Like, that was my first reaction, was like, oh, man, he's ruined. Anyway, look, I agree with Neek on this. People need to understand, okay, this has been a bad year. How good has Aaron been? It's been remarkable. Take this season, remove this season. The previous 4 seasons, Aaron Rodgers threw like 135 touchdowns and like 15 picks. It's been absolutely absurd the way he's dominated the National Football League. So one bad year, I don't think you go, hey, all of a sudden we're going to treat him like Carson Wentz. We're going to treat him like Jared Goff. And I believe this, with everything that Aaron is saying, I don't think he wants to go out with this type of taste in his mouth in terms of how the season has gone and how he's played.
All right, everybody hold this thought. I'm coming back to it. This is obviously one we need to continue to discuss, and we will. But I'm up against the bottom of the hour. Coming up, it was an awful performance followed by an awful press conference, and it leads to one very big question. Should the Jets bench Zach Wilson right now? I'm in constant communication with their camp, and I will let you know as soon as there is news. Plus, I woke up this morning and Patrick Beverley was trending. You're going to see why. You're going to find out if he should be suspended for this as we talk about it with Woj and Jay Will next. It's Get Up on ESPN.
Wireless family plans save you money, but then you have to deal